Good morning. I hope everyone is having a great day. It is Wednesday. Nope, it's Thursday. Thursday, January 9th. It's 9 a.m. Just dropped my kids off and thought I would take this opportunity to sit down and talk about what books I read in 2019. Now, I don't know how many of you bullet journal or know about bullet journaling. I don't fully bullet journal, but I do keep a notebook with me almost all the time in my purse. It's got my meal plan, it's got a calendar in it. It's just kind of where I keep track of everything. I've got my to-do lists, gift ideas that I come up with, various things. And last year when I set up my journal, I also set up this page here, which is books I read in 2019. And so I just did a really rough thing. Like, you can see all the lines are crooked and everything. It was just a quick throw together. I just kind of wanted a fun way to keep track of what books that I had read during the year. So I thought we'd go through just quickly, not in depth. I'm going to try and avoid any spoilers. All the books I read in 2019. So I have a stack of books beside me. Now I'm going to start off with one that I cannot find the book for, and I feel like I probably lent it to a friend. We do that. Our friends kind of exchange books back and forth. She might have it. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so let's get started. Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. I'm just going to pull it up here on my iPad so you guys can see the cover. I really enjoyed this book. It was really good. It was really interesting. Here we go. Can you see that? Probably not. Yeah. Anyways, Lisa Wingate, Before We Were Yours. It's a suitcase and two girls on the front. It was a really good story. It's not often that you find books written like that. So it was two central storylines that kind of ran alongside of each other, and then at the very end they connected, and it was really interesting. It was really well written. I don't know if Lisa Wingate has any other books that she's written. I'm not familiar with her. This was the first book I'd read of hers. It was really good, and I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of character development. The story was really interesting. It's about children taken from their parents through kidnapping or other means, and then placed up for adoption. So it's not the parents intending to give up their kids, it's that the kids were taken, and based on actual incidents that happened historically. I don't know if this specific story itself, I don't think this specific story was true, but it's just one of those things that's based in fact, kind of like a historical fiction type of thing. And then there's two viewpoints, one that happened in the past and then one that's happened that is happening presently in the book, and they're running alongside of each other. So it kind of hops back and forth in the past and the present, but it's really well done, and I really recommend that everyone read that. So that's it for that. Before We Were Yours, Lisa Wingate. It's very good. I've got a cup of tea here. English breakfast in my favorite Starbucks mug with macarons on it. Delicious. Anyways, next, let's talk about, this is The Last Tutor by Philippa Gregory. And I do really like Philippa Gregory. She's one of my favorite authors, only because I tend to lean more towards historical fiction. I love historical fiction. It's my favorite genre. It's wonderful. This one, though, I struggled through. This one, The Last Tutor, it's about Jane Grey, who was Queen of England for a handful of days, 9 days, in that era. And it was okay. It's definitely not one of my favorites from Philippa Gregory. It's written in her style. It's well written. It's just not a very interesting story, you know? I mean, there's only so much substance to a queen for 9 days, you know? So it was okay. If you like Philippa Gregory, you might like this book. It wasn't my favorite from hers. I think she's got a ton of other really awesome books. That one for me was just okay. So I don't have a lot to say about that one. It's historical fiction. If you want to read about Jane Grey, there's lots of things on the internet you can read about her, or I'm sure there are other historical fiction books that are written about her, but For me, that one was just okay. This one, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. And this one is written by Gail Honeyman. This one was really good, actually. I quite like this one. It was different. Eleanor was a very complicated character. I'll just read you a little bit of the back. She struggles with appropriate social skills and tends to say exactly what she's thinking. Nothing's missing in her carefully timetabled life, where weekends mostly consist of frozen pizza, vodka, and phone chats with her mom. Everything changes when Eleanor meets Raymond, the bumbling IT guy from her office, whose big heart will ultimately help Eleanor find the way to repair her own profoundly damaged one. And that's pretty much what happens. Like, there's no surprises here. There's nothing shocking, but it is a very well-written story, and Eleanor is a very different character, and she was really well developed in this story. It was a good book. I'd probably read it again, to be honest. It's part of Reese Witherspoon's book club. It was good. I liked it. I think also it's highly rated on Goodreads and online. It was good. I have no complaints about it. In the same kind of vein, I picked up this one, The Bookish Life of Nina Hill by Abbi Waxman. It was okay. I found it to be really, really similar to Eleanor Oliphant, but I found that Nina Hill was really not as interesting as Eleanor Oliphant was. It was an okay book. Not great. I probably won't read it again. In fact, I'll probably donate this book. This book is about the only child of a single mother. Nina has her life just as she wants it. A job in a bookstore, a kick-butt trivia team. A trivia team. That's hilarious. I wish we had more of those. And a cat named Phil. If she sometimes suspects there might be more to life than reading, she just shrugs and picks up a new book. And when the father Nina never knew existed suddenly dies, leaving behind innumerable sisters, brothers, nieces, and nephews, Nina is horrified. So basically, the dad that she never knew died, and she's got a ton of siblings suddenly, nieces, nephews, cousins, a whole family. And this book just kind of goes into the fallout that comes when a family member dies, and she gains a family. So it's good. It's kind of predictable. It's not a bad read. If you want something that's kind of light and fluffy, there's nothing traumatic that happens in here. I don't think there are any trigger warnings that you'd have to be aware of in here. It's a good book. It's not great, but it's good. Next. Let's talk about Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. So I read all three. So I read Crazy Rich Asians, Rich People Problems, and China Rich Girlfriend. But then I made the mistake of watching Crazy Rich Asians, the movie, and let me tell you, I was disappointed. Crazy Rich Asians, the movie on its own, was very cute. They turned this really rich, wonderful story into a real fluffy rom-com, and I kind of hate that. If you haven't read the book and you've just watched the movie, then you might really love the movie. But once you've read the book and you realize just how much substance is missing from the movie, you might hate it. Kind of like I did. But I find that with books and movies, they're just not the same. There's so much that gets lost when you translate a book to a movie just because of the time constraints, right? I mean, this book might take you days or hours to get through if you're reading it continuously throughout the day, and then when they translate it over to a movie that's like 2 hours long, there's just so much that they can't fit in there, and it's kind of unfortunate because this story was really wonderful and there are so many characters. Like, the family is so big and there's so many people, and I don't know, it was just a really great book. Highly recommend. Crazy Rich Asians, Rich People Problems, and China Rich Girlfriend. They all kind of focus on different people in the family. So, like, this one is about Rachel and Nikki. I feel like this was really popular, so probably a lot of people really know about it, so I'm not going to delve too deep into this one. Rich People Problems, excellent. It continued on, same writing style, same family, same cast of characters. It just focused on different characters in the book. And China Rich Girlfriend, also great. I'll probably read these again. They were really excellent. Highly recommend. Kevin Kwan, great author in this series. Wonderful. And these characters, great. I dig them. They're wonderful. Oh, this is probably my favorite book from the year. We read this in book club. I'm in a book club. It's a bunch of my friends. I love book club. This is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This is another Reese's book club. It's wonderful. This story was just so good from beginning to end. I'm just going to read you a little bit out of the jacket so that you know what it's about. For years, rumors of the Marsh Girl have haunted Barkley Cove, a quiet town on the North Carolina coast. So in late 1969, when handsome Chase Andrews is found dead, the locals immediately suspect Kaya Clark, the so-called Marsh Girl. But Kaya is not what they say. Sensitive and intelligent, she has survived for years alone in the marsh that she calls home, finding friends in the gulls and lessons in the sand. Then the time comes when she yearns to be touched and loved. When two young men from town become intrigued by her wild beauty, Kaya opens herself to a new life until the unthinkable happens. This book, I just really can't say enough good things about it. I don't think there was anything in here that I didn't like. Although there was one incident, I'm not going to say what in here because it's a spoiler. One incident in here that I kind of wish they had gone into a little bit more detail on, but I also think not going into detail leaves a little bit of mystery, just like the Marsh Girl. The book was so great, and the story about Kaya, the Marsh Girl, was just so rich in detail from beginning to end. You know, it gives her basically her entire life story, and it was so good, and I so recommend this book. Especially if you like this kind of genre, this popular fiction, highly recommend. I can't say enough good things about it. This was definitely my favorite book from 2019. I loved it. It was great. Next, I picked this book up. This is The Lonely Hearts Hotel by Heather O'Neill. I don't think I've ever read anything else by Heather O'Neill. I don't know if she has other books or what. I picked this up when my husband and I were going for a weekend away, just as I thought it would be a quick read. It was okay. I'm not going to read it again. I might donate it. I don't know. It's okay. It's another kind of historical one. It's a love story. Two babies are abandoned in a Montreal orphanage in the winter of 1914. Before long, their true talents emerge. Perrault is a piano prodigy, and Rose lights up even the dreariest room with her dancing and comedy. As they travel around the city performing for the rich, the children fall in love with each other and dream up a plan for the most extraordinary and seductive circus show the world has ever seen. So then they become separated as teenagers, and they make their way back to each other when they're a little bit older. But I didn't like that the way that their relationship developed through the book. There was also a ton of sex in this book, which I'm certainly not opposed to, but it felt like it didn't really have a place in a lot of spots in the story, and it was just kind of thrown in. If you don't like reading about sex, you're not going to like this book, because it's constant. It's constant in this book. The story, if you had taken out all of that stuff, the story would probably be better. Like, there was a lot of opportunity to add more historical elements, a little more character development. I felt like you got to know Rose in the story, but you really didn't get to know a lot about Perrault, especially in his older years. It kind of focused a little more on his childhood, which isn't terrible, but I just felt like we didn't really get to know Perrault and Rose as a couple as much as we got to know Rose on her own and then Perrault as a child. It was okay. I don't recommend it, though. It was kind of it was okay. All right, next. Ooh. The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty. She wrote Big Little Lies and I think Sharp Objects. Nope, that was someone else. Sorry, that was Gillian Flynn. The Husband's Secret. This was okay. I typically really like Liane Moriarty's books. I think I've read a couple others of hers. They're always really interesting. They have a story that really grips you, and then at the end there always seems to be like a twist or a surprise. This one I found to be kind of predictable. It was a really quick read. It was easy to get through. The characters were kind of interesting, but the end was kind of predictable, and near the end I just kind of skimmed through it, which is when I know a book has kind of lost me, is when I'm not sitting gripped by the words and the pages. I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, when is the end here, because I'm over it. And that was kind of this book, which was disappointing because I really like Liane Moriarty. I really like her books. Big Little Lies was amazing. If you have not read Big Little Lies, highly recommend. Go pick that up right now. Go read it. I haven't seen the HBO series, but I hear that's really well done. And once you read that book, you can easily see how that book translates into a mini-series. I'm sure they've done a really great job with it. That story just kind of lends itself well to a mini-series. And I'm glad they didn't do a movie off of it, because there's so much detail and so many storylines that kind of branch off in that book that translating that to a movie would have been a disaster. Anyways, I kind of went off on a tangent about Big Little Lies. Big Little Lies! Highly recommend. This is the sticker for Big Little Lies. The Husband's Secret? Pass. That's it. The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. Really recommend this book. This is really wonderful. It is about the Tattooist of Auschwitz. Based on a true story. It's Auschwitz. I don't really need to explain what that is. This story was really well done. Lots of details. Based in fact. These people in this book did exist. They were actual people. And it just kind of went into their story. It's a love story. It's so wonderful. I highly recommend. It's so well done. It's also an important history lesson, you know. I know a lot of people probably don't like to read about the Holocaust, but I always find it's good to remember those things. And it's nice when a story has a lot of detail like this one. It has a really wonderful ending. It's just a great book. This was probably my second favorite that I read this year. Highly recommend. Here is my least favorite book from 2019, which is kind of surprising considering how highly rated it was. Where Do You Go, Bernadette? And as you can see, they've made a movie out of this. Typically, I hate buying books that have the movie posters on them, but we decided to read this for book club and I couldn't find the other version of this. So anyways, this is one of the ones where I feel like the movie is probably going to be better than the book. I could not stand this book. This was a chore to get through. Bernadette is the worst character ever. Just terrible. And maybe I'm alone in this opinion, but I don't know. A few people in my book club liked it, but it certainly wasn't a smashing success. Like, nobody came out and said, oh my gosh, I love this book. This was my favorite. It was okay. It was just okay. It's about Bernadette and her daughter and her husband and kind of the trials and tribulations they go through. And Bernadette disappears at some point. And I don't know. She's a weird character. You can tell that she struggles with some mental illnesses, and that's fine. But she just didn't get developed enough or explained enough, or the author didn't really go into her thought process enough for me to feel like I could really relate to what Bernadette was going through or her struggles. It was just, I don't know. There were some things that were annoying. You know, I was irritated by the husband, so annoyed by the friends in the book. The daughter in the book was lovely, but Bernadette and her husband, I couldn't stand them. It was just, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people said this book was funny. Like, when you read the reviews and things on Goodreads and all of the, you know, delightful, a crackingly smart family dramedy. I don't know. There was no funny in here for me. It was not one little bit of this was funny or made me chuckle. It was painful, and I didn't like it. If you have read this, please tell me what you thought in the comments. Not that anyone's going to watch this video. I'm sure like 5 of you will. But if of those 5, one of you has read this, tell me what you think of this, because I honestly want to know. Why is this so highly rated, and why do people love this book so much? I could not stand it. No. Least favorite. Alright, so at one point in our book club, we tend to read a lot of popular fiction, which is fine. It's a wonderful genre, probably where I get most of my books from. So we wanted to branch out a little bit and read something a little more fantasy. So we read Artemis by Andy Weir. You might be familiar with Andy Weir. He wrote The Martian, which was then made into a movie with, what's his face? Matt Damon. I loved The Martian. I read the book, I saw the movie, I thought they were both great. Artemis, I didn't love as much as The Martian. It was still good though. It was well written, for sure. It was easy to read, a very easy read. This one, it's about a girl. I'll just read you a little bit. Jasmine Bashara, sorry if I butchered that name, never signed up to be a hero. She just wanted to get rich. Not crazy, eccentric billionaire rich, like many of the visitors to her hometown of Artemis, humanity's first and only lunar colony. Just rich enough to move out of her coffin-sized apartment and eat something better than flavored algae. Rich enough to pay off a debt she's owed for a long time. So when a chance at a huge score finally comes her way, Jazz can't say no. But engineering the perfect crime is just the start of her problems, because her little heist is about to land her in the middle of a conspiracy for control of Artemis itself. So this story, it does take place on the moon, which is very interesting. It's really interesting to read how Andy Weir kind of set up a city, a colony on the moon, and how that whole thing works. It was interesting. I didn't love some things about it. I don't know. So, I mean, that's the thing with fantasy, right? Is this author's interpretation, or, you know, the story that he made up about the moon, obviously. I mean, he wrote a fiction book, duh. It was good. Some things I didn't like about it, obviously. You're not going to like everything about every single book. I felt like the story on the moon, like the colony, and the details about the colony were more developed than the actual character development. Like, I didn't feel like I really knew a lot about Jazz by the end of the book. Like, it kind of talks more about what she gets up to and the controversy she gets herself into, the situation she needs to get herself out of, more than it does anything about her. Like, I really wish in it he kind of alludes to some of her past and things that shaped her into the kind of person that she is today, but he doesn't delve into that, so you can't really relate, or it doesn't lead you to how she got from point A to point B in terms of who she is now as a person. I just kind of wish there had been more past character details in here, like what she got up to as a teenager that caused her to act certain ways, you know. It talks a little bit about her relationship with her father. Sorry. Joking. I wish that he had gone into more details about the relationship with her father, because it does come into play in certain aspects. It was good. If you like fantasy, or you want to just delve into an easy fantasy, this book is great for that. It was good. It's well written, for sure. Is it my favorite? No. Am I going to read it again? Maybe, but probably not. I feel like there are better fantasy books, like The Martian. I'll probably read The Martian again. I love The Martian. Artemis, it has potential. I also feel like this would probably make a really great movie, for sure, because there's such a lack of character development and backstory in the beginning that the movie could probably just focus on what's happening right now on the moon in this book, and I feel like it would be really well done. So anyways, that's a good one. Let's talk about, if you like historical fiction, The Alice Network. This is also another Reese's Book Club. This is by Kate Quinn. I have another one by Kate Quinn that I'm going to be reading this year, and that is The Huntress, which is also highly rated. This one was great. I loved this one. It's based in World War II and World War I, actually. It kind of spans both wars. It's interesting. I'm going to read you a bit of the jacket so that you know what it's about. 1947, in the chaotic aftermath of World War II, American college girl Charlie St. Clair is pregnant, unmarried, and on the verge of being thrown out of her very proper family. She is also nursing a desperate hope that her beloved cousin Rose, who disappeared in Nazi-occupied France during the war, might still be alive. When Charlie's parents banish her to Europe to have her little problem taken care of, Charlie breaks free and heads to London, determined to find out what happened to the cousin she loves like a sister. So this is another one where two stories kind of run parallel to each other, just like in Before We Were Yours. It's really well done in here, just like in Before We Were Yours. So the other part of this is 1915, a year into the Great War, Eve Gardner burns to join the fight against the Germans and unexpectedly gets her chance when she's recruited to work as a spy. Sent into enemy-occupied France, she's trained by the mesmerizing Lily, codename Alice, the Queen of Spies, who manages a vast network of secret agents right under the enemy's nose. 30 years later, haunted by the betrayal that ultimately tore apart the Alice Network, Eve spends her days drunk and secluded in her crumbling London house. That is, until a young American barges in, uttering a name Eve hasn't heard in decades, and launches them both on a mission to find the truth, no matter where it leads. So, obviously you can tell Charlie St. Clair and Eve Gardner get together, they get up to shenanigans. It kind of delves into Eve's past life and then Charlie's current life, and it's really well written. It's a great book, and I highly recommend. Really good, especially if you like historical fiction. This is from the war, so obviously not super historical, but still an important thing to read about. This was really good. Highly recommend. Loved it. Okay. Let's talk about, Nora Roberts, year one. Usually after I read a bunch of heavy things, I try to read something kind of light and fluffy, and Nora Roberts really fits the bill for me for that. There are a lot of really great Nora Roberts books. I know she's kind of known for writing like fluffy romance novels, but some of her books have really great stories behind them, and year one was one of them. And this is I feel like kind of different for her, although I haven't read a lot of her books. I swear, I don't know anybody who puts out more books than Nora Roberts. Maybe Danielle Steele. Nora Roberts and Danielle Steele, I tell you, they put out a ton of books. But this one, year one, was really good. I know this is a series, and I'll probably pick up the second one. I don't know what the second one is called. Year two. Anyways, this is a dystopian novel. It began on New Year's Eve. The sickness came on suddenly and spread quickly. The fear spread even faster. Within weeks, everything people counted on began to fail them. The electrical grid sputtered, law and government collapsed, and more than half of the world's population was decimated. Now, in a world of survivors where every stranger encountered could be either a savage or a savior, none of them knows exactly where they are heading or why, but a purpose awaits them that will shape their lives and the lives of all those who remain. The end has come, the beginning comes next. So when I first picked this up, I just kind of thought it was, a Walking Dead-esque kind of apocalypse, dystopian type of thing. And I was kind of surprised when partway through the book, magic comes into it, but that also makes it interesting. So I recommend this, actually. If you want a quick read that's got an interesting story, you like that dystopian kind of thing with a little bit of a magical element, this is a good one. I don't feel like you need to read the second or however many books are in the rest of this series. You know, I read this one and I don't feel compelled to go and pick up the next book if it's even out yet. I might at some point. It's not necessary. As a standalone, this was really good. It was a quick read, interesting story, you know, I recommend. It was good. Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste. I'd love to know how to pronounce this, and I'm not going to try because I don't want to be disrespectful and butcher it. New? Is that how it is? I don't know. Anyways, Celeste writes a mean book. This was good. This is another Reese's book club. This was something we read in book club as well. Our group seems to gravitate towards the Reese's book club picks, which we seem to like better than the Oprah's book club picks. No shade to Oprah. I've read some wonderful book clubs. But Reese is really killing it with the books that she's putting on her list. This was interesting. It wasn't my favorite. I didn't love it, but I liked it enough that I'd probably read it again. Just because there's a lot happening in here that I feel like probably warrants a second read at some point. In Shaker Heights, a placid, progressive suburb of Cleveland, everything is planned, from the layout of the winding roads to the colors of the houses to the successful lives its residents will go on to lead. And no one embodies the spirit more than Elena Richardson, whose guiding principle is either playing by the rules. Enter Mia Warren, an enigmatic artist and single mother who arrives in this idyllic bubble with her teenage daughter Pearl, and a disregard for the status quo that threatens to upend this carefully ordered community. Suspicious of Mia and her motives, Elena is determined to uncover the secrets in Mia's past, but her obsession will come at unexpected and devastating costs. Little Fires Everywhere explores the weight of secrets, the nature of art and identity, the ferocious pull of motherhood, and the danger of believing that following the rules can avert disaster. Agree with all of that. That's essentially what this book is about. It's about neighbors, an evolving relationship. Some things go down. It's interesting. It's a quick read. Like you can see, it's not a very thick book. A lot happens in here. It's good. I like it. Yeah. There was maybe a little bit of character development and a little bit of substance missing from this that would push it over into being a great book for me, but it was good and I enjoyed reading it. It wasn't terrible. It was I'd file this under good to okay. Yeah. Not bad. Okay, I have 3 books left. No, 4 books. Just kidding. Oh man, this video is already half an hour long. Holy smokes. Okay, I read Jurrasic Park. I don't have a lot to say about this because I feel like this is an old book. Everyone, I feel like, has read Jurrasic Park. In book club, we were talking about books versus movies, and my friend had mentioned, we were talking about Jurrasic Park the movie, and she had mentioned, oh, haven't you read Jurrasic Park? No, it was a book. Anyways, I read the book, and then it immediately made me hate the movie because this book has so many wonderful details and such a great story that were totally left out of the movie. They ruined it. The movie ruined it. I mean, the movie is good on its own for sure, but there's a lot of details in the book that were cut from the movie or that weren't put into the movie that I feel like would have made it a better story. Jurrasic Park, though, the book, definitely read it if you're into that premise. I mean, I feel like everyone knows what Jurrasic Park is about, the movie, or has seen it at some point in their life. Definitely pick up this book. It's good. I liked it. Ask Again Yes. Okay, Ask Again Yes by Mary Beth Keane. This was good. This was the one, I feel like Jimmy Fallon, one of the Jimmys, and I think it was Fallon. Could have been Kimmel. Not sure. One of the talk show hosts was promoting this heavily over the past summer. It was good. I don't know that it was worth all the hype that it was given. Yeah, no, it was. Now that I'm thinking about it. I'm just gonna read a little bit out of it. Francis Gleason and Brian Stanhope, 2 rookie cops in the NYPD, live next door to each other outside the city. What happens behind closed doors in both houses, the loneliness of Francis's wife, Lena, and the instability of Brian's wife, Anne, sets the stage for the explosive events to come. Yes, okay. It was interesting, definitely, reading about the different families and the relationships. I kind of wish we had delved a little more into Anne and the choices that Anne made. It kind of glossed over a lot of things in her life that I feel could have added more substance to the story. The story was good. I don't have any complaints about it. I'd read it again and I would recommend it for sure. It was good, definitely. The families, the things that they went through, I'm not going to ruin it by saying what they went through, but there's an incident that happens between the 2 families that both brings them together and tears them apart, which is kind of an odd thing to say, but it's what happened. So I recommend this, though. I recommend that you pick it up, that you read it, let me know what you think. It was good, for sure. It wasn't a difficult read. It was easy to get through. There was a lot of details in here. I kind of wish it had a little bit more, but I find that with books, I want to know more. I want to know more about the characters. I want to know more about their background. I want to know more about their history. And the same kind of holds true with this one. I want to know more. But as it stands, a great book. And I could see this being made into a really great movie as well. Actually, this would probably be a better series than a movie, but that's just my own personal opinion, you know? Okay, I got 2 left. The Cactus, Sarah Haywood. This is another Reese's Book Club one. I feel like this was also kind of hyped up. This is fans of Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine, will love The Cactus. That is not true. I liked Eleanor Oliphant. I thought it was great. The Cactus was okay. I didn't love it though. I don't know. It was kind of annoying. I didn't like the character that much. I'll read you a little bit. For Susan Green, messy emotions don't fit into the equation of her perfectly ordered life. She has a flat that is ideal for one, a job that suits her passion for logic, and an interpersonal arrangement, aka friends with benefits. She has a friend with benefits that provides cultural and other more intimate benefits. But suddenly confronted with the loss of her mother and the news that she is about to become a mother herself, Susan's greatest fear is realized. She is losing control. Enter Rob, the dubious but well-meaning friend of her indolent brother. As Susan's due date draws near and her dismantled world falls farther into a tailspin, Susan finds an unlikely ally in Rob. I mean, that's kind of all you need to know about this. This book was very predictable. I didn't like Susan as a character. She wasn't very interesting to me. I don't recommend this, to be honest. I think if you're going to read one, read Eleanor Oliphant. She was a much more interesting character than Susan. Susan annoyed me. I don't know why this book got as many good reviews as it did. It was okay. I don't recommend. Okay, the last one, Orphan Train. Orphan Train by Christina Baker Klein. This was a great book. I really enjoyed this. This is another historical fiction. I'll read you a little bit about this and then we'll talk about it and then I'm done. Between 1854 and 1929, so-called orphan trains ran regularly from the cities of the East Coast to the farmlands of the Midwest, carrying thousands of abandoned children whose fates would be determined by pure luck. Would they be adopted by a kind and loving family, or would they face a childhood and adolescence of hard labor and servitude? As a young Irish immigrant, Vivian Daly was one such child, sent by rail from New York City to an uncertain future a world away. Returning east later in life, Vivian leads a quiet, peaceful existence on the coast of Maine. The memories of her upbringing rendered a hazy blur, but in her attic, hidden in trunks, are vestiges of a turbulent past. 17-year-old Molly Ayer knows that a community service position helping an elderly widow clean out her attic is the only thing keeping her out of juvenile hall. But as Molly helps Vivian sort through her keepsakes and possessions, she discovers that she and Vivian aren't as different as they appear. Molly is an outsider being raised by strangers, and she too has unanswered questions about the past. So this book is really good. I really liked it. I liked Molly. I liked Vivian. I liked the way that the two stories kind of converged at the end. I feel like this book doesn't really go into much about Molly's life. I mean, Molly's a teenager, so it kind of gives you enough information to know where Molly is at as a person and where she's coming from and why she's making the decisions that she does, without going into too much detail. And it really delves into Vivian's past. Interesting. Vivian lived a really interesting life, and Molly thought so too. And how those two come together is great. Good book. Really recommend. Orphan Train. Okay. That's it. Those are the books that I read in 2019. I got a list of things I'm going to read in 2020. Right now I'm working on The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. She wrote The Night Circus, and The Night Circus is one of my favorite books. I have it right here. The Night Circus. If you haven't read The Night Circus, please do. It's really interesting. It's fantasy, but kind of different. It's a little bit historical. Anyways, I love The Night Circus so much that I'm really excited to read The Starless Sea. I'm maybe a chapter into it, and so far I'm loving it. So I have high hopes that it's going to be really good. I don't know if I'm going to talk about it as a standalone, or I'll save it for the end of the year and maybe do a books I read in 2020. We'll see. This is only my second video, so. Anyways, thanks for hanging out for the full 40 minutes I've been talking about books. Thanks for hanging out for the 40 minutes if you hang out and watch the whole thing. This was a long video, but those are the books I read in 2019. If you stumble across this and you watch the whole thing, tell me what books you read in 2019. Tell me what your favorites were, what your least favorites. Leave any thoughts about any of the books that I mentioned here. I'm always interested to know everyone's different opinions about books. I love talking about books. I love reading books. I'm a book nerd. Anyways, thanks for hanging out. I hope you all have a great day. If you're not having a great day, tomorrow is a new day. You can start over. Anyways, thanks guys.